Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Talk Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of the Jubilee and how it intersects with an amazing pilgrimage we're going on next year.
That's right. For the Jubilee of 2025, the Catholic Talk Show is going to Italy, and we want to invite you. Let us tell you more about it.
All right, yeah, I've never really participated in a Jubilee year. I've heard about walking through holy doors. It's going to be good to learn a little bit about that, and I'm sure you have. But we're going to be going to a lot of other amazing holy sites in Italy. It's going to be a great trip. So really excited about this episode. And we got Padre Tetlow looking good, going to a retirement party. Is that right?
You're right. Luckily, it's not mine. Of course, maybe I guess you can look at that two ways, but I don't want to be retiring right now. So
yeah,
this is
well,
great.
certainly not before this
friend
trip.
Of mine, so.
Yeah, certainly not before this trip, because Father Tetlow is going to be joining us, and we want to ask you to join us too. So for the Jubilee year in 2025, and we'll explain what Jubilee year means here in a minute, we're going to be taking a Catholic Talk Show pilgrimage to Italy. We're going to be going to so many great sites. We're going to be going to Rome, Assisi, Turin, Milan, and so much more. That's going to be next year, 2025, in accordance and in alignment with the Jubilee year from April 24th to May 2nd. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Rome, and there you can find out all the different packages, real in-depth details of all the places we're going to go and all the things that you want to know before you join us on the trip. But we want to talk about this today because this is going to be, really, a Jubilee year happens once every 25 years. So if you're lucky, maybe it's a 3 times in a lifetime experience. So we're going to be going to Italy, and we've been wanting to go to Italy for a few years. We had it planned, and then COVID hit, and now it's been on the back burner. We were going to go last year, but they're like, we should just wait for the Jubilee year. Yeah. So what is a Jubilee year? This goes back to the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, every 50 years, there would be a special year called a Jubilee where all the debts would be forgiven, financial debts, personal debts, grudges, slaves would be freed. All of these things, it is an extraordinary year of mercy that would happen, just kind of to reset everybody's spiritual lives. And that tradition carries on in the church today. In the church today, it goes back to the first Jubilee year, goes back to 1300. And about every 100 years or so, up until the 1700s, that's what would happen. It'd be a special year where you can gain plenary indulgences, there'd be holy doors, and they'd be called for specific reasons. Nowadays, they happen about every 25 years, unless this very special year is called. But I think the highlight of the trip is going to Rome, the Eternal City. And one of the really cool and unique features of a Jubilee year is that they tear down bricked doorways to the 4 major basilicas of Rome. So St. Peter's, obviously, St. John Lateran, which is really the Pope's cathedral, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul's outside the wall. And you can go through any of these 4 doors and get a complete plenary indulgence for all of your time in purgatory. So not only is it a great time, but it also saves you time later in purgatory. So that's kind of the overview of why 2025 specifically is going to be so important that we are going to Italy. But Ryan, why don't we jump into some of the spots? And we'll start with day one. Now, before we get into that, I want to tell everybody, again, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Rome. You can get all the details. There's going to be 2 components of the trip. The first part is the general pilgrimage that everyone's going to go on. And then there's an optional pre-tour, and we'll tell you more about that towards the end. But the pre-tour is going to be in Turin, where you get to see things like DaVinci's Last Supper, the Shroud of Turin, the tomb of Blessed Carlo Acutis, and so much more. But so this trip is being put together by Select International, and this is the group that we've worked on with all of the pilgrimages that we've done as the Catholic Talk Show. So when we went to France or Spain or Mexico, it's been through them, and the experience is great. It's great lodging, great food, very meticulous planning, great accommodations. We have Catholic tour guides with us who give us all the insight, who really know the area. They can speak the languages. They can help translate. They, even on some trips, they help to administer medical care, right? I mean, they are really, really great guides. And Father Tetlow has been on all of the pilgrimages with us. There'll be the opportunity for daily mass at all these places.
Absolutely.
There'll be opportunities for confession.
That's one of the big parts of the trip is that daily mass. It brings you in, and it makes it a pilgrimage. Very powerful. Every city's got its own history. So.
How many pilgrimages have you been on, Father?
Oh, in my lifetime? Woo. Probably 50 or 60.
Well, I mean, he's been alive for 130 years, so
yeah,
that's about one.
I think I look good for 130 years old. Yeah.
Well, Tetlow,
modern medicine,
Yeah, well, Tetlow's been through 5 Jubilee years. This will be, for us, the first one, really, when we're mature enough to be able to go on one of these trips. So here's what we're going to do. Day one, wherever you're coming from, there's going to be arranged airfare, and we're going to all fly into Rome. What will happen is that we'll have people pick you up at the airport. We'll be able to get you to the hotels, get you checked in, and just get you oriented, right? That first day is always, the air travel and the time zone change. We take it nice and easy, get you settled in, and then get you spiritually and physically prepared for the rest of the trip. So after we fly into Rome from wherever you're coming from, day 2, we are going to have, we're going to be going to Orvieto. So then on day 2, we're going to be going from Rome. On our way to Assisi, we're going to stop in Orvieto. And then we're going to go to the Cathedral of Orvieto, which houses the miracle, a Eucharistic miracle called Bolsena, where we're going to celebrate Mass. We're going to have some lunch there. We're going to get specifically Orvieto Classico wine. And then we're going to be able to then go from there to Assisi. But Father, have you ever been to Orvieto?
I was just there about 6 months ago, and it's the church in Orvieto is one of the most beautiful churches in the world. It's noted. The whole front of the church is done in frescoes, gold and very, very vivid colors, and it's a massive church. As a matter of fact, they don't open it up a lot, so for us to be able to have a private mass there happens very, very seldom. So that's a great gift right there. But the church itself is absolutely gorgeous.
Sounds like a good start.
Yeah, it's a wonderful start. It's a wonderful way to start the pilgrimage.
And it's a Eucharistic character too, because that is the site of a Eucharistic miracle that goes back all the way till 1263, where during the celebration of Mass, the Eucharist started bleeding and showing the Passion of Christ. So that day we're going to have that really cool experience in that kind of exclusive cathedral and visit the site of a Eucharistic miracle. And that's going to serve as a midway point so that we're going from Rome to Orvieto and then on our way. And then that night, on day 2, we will get to Assisi, where we will stay for the night. And, usually that first night, Ryan, everyone's kind of got a lot of energy and, we're getting into the hotel. Do you remember when we went to Spain and France, kind of that first night, and how we all just had that little mixer at the bar and everyone was having drinks? And what's that experience?
We had a dance train on the boat.
The dance train.
Yeah. It's fun.
So day 3, then, we will be in Assisi. So we're going to go to the very famous spot where St. Francis had his vision of Jesus saying, Francis, Francis, rebuild my church. We're going to be going to the Basilica of St. Clare and the Chapel of San Damiano, which is where that miracle happened. We're going to visit the sanctuary of the Spoliation to see the tomb, Ryan, and I think this is important to you, of Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we had a beautiful experience with him. I felt that God introduced me and my daughter to him in a very special way. We got to venerate his peridium, which is a part of his heart. And my daughter had a very beautiful experience, obviously, with everything she's going through. It was something very special that we share together. And, I just felt even on this day, he's about to be, in the April timeframe, a lot of people are saying he's going to be canonized around that time. So it'll be very special. Met the sisters there that are taking care of his relics. Just a beautiful experience, and I've got their phone number, so I think they're going to join us in prayer. So that'll be beautiful. It'll be nice for everybody to meet them, and then hopefully Ava can go too.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a little minor miracle if we were there during his canonization?
Oh yes,
there is a chance that
There
is
really is.
possible. And there's a lot of youth that are going to be there too as well.
That's right.
During
Now,
that time.
also on that day, we're going to be in Assisi, so we'll have seen San Damiano, that little church that Francis initially took literally to repair the church and rebuild the church, but then by consequent founded the Franciscans, which in a more substantial way helped rebuild the church. But then we're going to go over to the Basilica, and this is going to be amazing because I know so many people have such a special devotion to St. Francis. I mean, St. Francis is, after the apostolic age, I think he's probably the most important saint in the history of the church. And we're going to have the opportunity to go to the crypt of the Basilica and see the tomb of St. Francis and venerate his relics there. And then be able to celebrate Mass, a private Mass there in one of the chapels. Father, have you ever been to Assisi and seen St. Francis's relics?
Yeah, I was there. Golly, what was
Yesterday.
it? I was there like 6 months. When I went to Orvieto, I was there. I was. I've got a story too about the relic. We asked for a relic to house in our little shrine at St. Benedict's Church in St. Augustine. At first, they had said no because they just had given out. They'd given out all they had, but his mother found out that we were looking for a relic of his, and so she got us the relic. She actually procured it for us. Went through Assisi, of course, and I went there to pick that up. And so I brought that relic back with me to the States. And in 3 weeks, we are going to house that relic inside the wall in our shrine there at St. Benedict's.
Wow.
And
So it'll be,
Carlo?
yeah.
Wow.
So we've got several relics, but we're very, very proud of this one. And we had a couple of weeks ago, the bishop had a service blessing the relic and the other relics we have, and so we'll have a reliquary there right in the wall
Beautiful.
of our shrine. So it'll be a very beautiful thing, and the actual place where we will visit, where he is. I know you were asking about Francis, but this is the very big part of going.
Mm-hmm.
His body is now covered in wax, but it lies there in state and at the shrine there in Assisi. So it's a very holy place already, and we were feeling great, like you were feeling it. His reach is very, very powerful, which happens a lot of times when you go from being blessed to becoming a saint. He's touching a lot of lives already. So I think it'll be a highlight of our trip to go there. I've been to.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I have been to the relics of St. Francis, and that itself is a beautiful reason to go to Assisi. But the fact now that we have Blessed Carlos there is a great gift, especially in the year, whether he becomes a saint while we're there. He will become a saint this year sometime. So the fact that we will be a part of that is a wonderful gift.
And what's cool about the time of year is that we're also planning this right for after Easter. So we'll still be within the octave of Easter when we're on this trip, and hopefully everybody will be on a spiritual high. After having went through Lent and went through those mortifications and that austerity. Now to be able to celebrate Easter in this big way with this Jubilee, joyful trip to Italy. And Assisi is just one of the most beautiful places on the entire earth. And we're going to be spending the night there on day 3. So then after we go to see Blessed Carlo, and then after we go and see St. Clare and the tomb of St. Francis, we'll go back to the hotel and we'll have dinner there. And dinners on these trip, guys, is always so much fun. I mean, it's always so much fun to have the full group together. And the food in Italy is just going to be absolutely outstanding. But Ryan is always kind of the life of the party when we're having these dinners, but it's great that we get the chance to sit down at different tables, pray together, eat together, really get to know each other. So I think on day 3, that's probably going to be our first chance to have, this big communal meal and really enjoy the joy of the Easter season. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I know you guys like your Italian food, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Another thing to bring up too, though, I had some people that went on a pilgrimage this summer. It was in August, and it was horrific. The heat was so bad and the air doesn't really work great over there sometimes in the hotels.
Yeah.
But we're going the best time of the year to visit over there. The temperatures are usually right around 65, 70 degrees.
Beautiful.
And you want really good temperatures to be able to enjoy the tours and all that. So I think that's another highlight. May not seem like it's as important as some of the others, but it gets important if it's very, very hot. So it's going to be beautiful weather. So
And God willing, Jen will be healthy enough to go. We've been talking to the doctors
that'll be
about
wonderful.
traveling, and our new doctor says this is the best medicine is just creating memories and being with people
Yeah.
who support and uplift her. So this would be a tremendous trip for her too as well.
Absolutely.
So day
Another
4,
life of the party.
Yeah,
of course, absolutely. As much as you think Ryan's led the party, Jen's even more so. So then day 4, we will still be in Assisi, but we will travel for the day to Cascia. And that's where we're going to go see the incorrupt body of Saint Rita. I've never seen an incorruptible saint, and Saint Rita is one of the most famous examples.
Yeah.
never
that's gonna
seen
be
one either.
That's going to be just one of the most outstanding experiences. And Cascia, again, is a beautiful rolling hill Italian countryside. We're going to be able to go also to the altar where we're going to see depictions of the miracle of Siena, another Eucharistic miracle. So now that's like, what are we up to? 2 Eucharistic miracles and 4 saints, and we're only on day 4. There's going to be in that church, so it's going to be in the Basilica of Saint Rita. There's a monstrance which holds the pages that show the blood stains from this Eucharistic miracle. We're also going to be celebrating Mass there in the Basilica, which is going to be just great. So I'm sure, Father Tetlow, you'll be leading us in worship there. But to be able to worship at those altars where Eucharistic miracles happen, where incorruptible saints are housed, is just not something you get over here in the United States, unfortunately. And to be able to do it together as a group is going to be awesome. On the way home from that, we're going to be going into the woods, and we're going to go to the little portion of St. Francis, that tiny little church that he built. And then we're going to go back to the hotel and eat and probably drink again. I mean, I think, Ryan, what would you estimate the amount of bottles of wine we go through on one of these trips?
Oh, definitely. I would say, well, it depends on how many people, but I would say we probably hit 1,000 on a few trips.
I would say you're probably right. So we're capping this trip at 100 people, and it's more than half full at this point. So if you're interested, again, go to catholictalkshow.com/Rome, because this is the first, we're doing this big announcement. We're going through this whole episode. So this is going to fill up fast, but if you have 100 people and you've got, 8 or 9 days, that's basically a bottle of wine a day per person, maybe more than a bottle of wine per day for some people. I think 1,000 bottles of wine on a trip is probably accurate. And the food too, so many different experiences. So, I mean, you're getting the spiritual experiences, but you're also getting the culinary and the geographical experiences of going to these places, which is, again, just such a blessing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Just to allay some feelings that some people have, because I took a group. This was the one I took several months ago with Father Matt King. We both led it. But we had 65 people, and people were a little worried about that being too large. But the more people you have, and believe it or not, it's more joy-filled, because you meet little groups of people that you want to be around, and then you all come together as a large group. But you kind of get more out of a larger group, because you're sharing a lot of things with people. and they're sharing a lot with you. So don't worry about the size because they've got it handled.
Yeah, I mean, we've made lifelong friends on these trips,
Yeah.
like Jen, still hear Jen talking to some of the folks that have been on our last pilgrimage. It's been beautiful.
Yeah, and a lot of this pilgrimage is already filled up with people who've went on past pilgrimages and love the experience, and basically say, anytime you guys are going somewhere, we're going, because it's so spiritually enriching and so much fun. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing a lot of familiar faces, but then also seeing some new faces as well. So day 5, we're going to head back from Assisi, and we're going to go to Rome. And Rome is the beating heart of the Catholic Church, and it's just such a dream to be able to go to this place that is so steeped in history, all the way back to the 8th century BC, to its mythical founding, throughout the whole history of the Roman Republic and the Empire, and then the persecutions of the early church, and ultimately then the triumph of the church, to where now all the tradition and all the legacy of Rome lives on in our faith in a triumphant fashion. So we are going to stop then on that day at the first of the 4 major basilicas of Rome that we will be visiting. And we'll have the opportunity to go through one of these holy doors. Now, we talked about this earlier, when we said, they open up the holy doors. But we've had, on one trip, we had the opportunity, there's a holy door in St. James Compostela where it's always open. And by making this pilgrimage, and then by going through this door and satisfying all the requirements of being able to achieve an indulgence, because of it is a holy year, there is a full plenary indulgence, which means a full remission for all the guilt of all your sins in purgatory. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's a reason to go on the trip in and of itself, let alone the experiences, the sights, the wines, and the friendship. But that's going to be really important. Now, this basilica, St. Paul outside the walls, this is the place where, this is the 2 pillars of Rome are Peter and Paul, and this is St. Paul's primary presence in church in the city. It's one of the 4 major basilicas, and we're also going to be going right by there to the site of St. Paul's beheading, to a monastery called Tre Fontane. And it's called Tre Fontane because it means the 3 fountains. And this is the site where St. Paul was executed by the Romans, and when his head was cut off, his head bounced 3 times, and springs of water came up from each of the places where St. Paul's head bounced. And to this day, there's now a monastery there. And one of the really cool things is that Tre Fontane brews its own beer and uses the water from this miraculous source of water. So you'll be able to drink beer brewed from this source. It's also pretty cool that it's the site where they have, at this monastery, they tend sheep. And the wool from those sheep are the wool that is made to make all the palliums for all the bishops around the world. So when a bishop is consecrated, he gets this pallium from the Pope, made from the wool from this area.
So at St. Paul's, because they're raising sheep there, is this like in the country, or is this somewhere?
Well,
in Rome
it's right
proper?
there in the name of St. Paul's, outside the walls. So St. Paul, this church would have been along the Appian Way, outside of the city. So it would have traditionally been, like you said, like more of a countryside setting. So they got these beautiful eucalyptus trees. They have these fountains, again, from that miraculous bouncing of St. Paul's head. The monks raise the sheep there. It's a really beautiful experience. And one of the really cool things about St. Paul's outside the wall, when we go there, I want everyone to have in their head is they have these frescoes around the top of the church. And they have a picture of every single pope, right? And one of the things that people point to as in prophecy is that there's only like 2 or 3 of these spots left. So they've had these things ready. So they have these little circles there, and it's like, okay, new pope, new picture. Well, they're almost out of space. So either they're going to have to make some sort of renovations, or we're in for something a little bit more unexpected. But it's a really cool thing that if you ever want to dig into is the prophecy of the portraits of the popes in St. Paul's outside the wall.
Cool.
That is very proud. There's 2
I think
spaces
you're right.
left, I think, from what we saw. We're over there.
Have they
Nation
put
of
Francis up there yet?
Francis is up there.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good
It
picture of
is.
Francis, by the way.
So after we leave this place, well, no, number one, again, because we're going through this holy door, this will be the first holy door, and this we'll have the opportunity to gain that plenary indulgence. And that kind of is one of the rewards of going on pilgrimages. That's one of the reasons that they make a pilgrimage an indulged act, is because you're making this big journey of faith. And during this journey, you're finding all these different inner reflections of your spirituality, connections with saints, connections with the Mass, connections with other people. And this is kind of the culmination of those trials that you go through to get through to these places. Now,
What's with the doors? Is it just the fact that you're there and a sign of your presence? Is that how that started? Has this been a tradition in the church for
that's right.
Yeah.
forever?
It goes definitely goes back to what, the 12th century.
Okay.
And the door is never opened. It's completely sealed. And then every 25 years, they open the holy door. And you can walk through it. And when you walk through that, if you do a few other things with it, you get the plenary indulgence.
Cool.
So it's like a pilgrimage's
That's right.
pilgrimage. It's a very special time to go.
Yeah,
if you're
and
going to make a
the door-
pilgrimage. In the early church, you would basically, you had to make 3 pilgrimages in your life. One was to Rome, the other one was to Jerusalem, and the other one was to Santiago de Compostela, where St. James was found
manger.
in the 4th century. And once again, the shepherds were involved, or the sheep were involved in that. And all these lights started coming out of the ground to let people know where he was. And that's how they found him. It's a very powerful
So then-
pilgrimage site. But can you imagine making 3 pilgrimages back in those days when it took
Taking your whole
forever to
life.
travel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, we
Yeah.
have the technology of planes and very comfortable tour buses that we're going to go on. So we'll save ourselves a little bit of the damage to the feet. Now, after we leave Trefontaine, which is where St. Paul was beheaded, and we're going to be on our way to our hotel, we're going to make one more stop. And this is one that I specifically requested that this pilgrimage stop at, and that's the Mamertine prison. And this is the prison where St. Peter and St. Paul were held as prisoners before their execution. It's also where St. Paul would have written a lot of the epistles. You know, a lot of the epistles are St. Paul stuck in this jail cell writing to people saying, hey, keep it together even though I'm in captivity. This is where, Peter would have converted the jailer's daughter, and all these amazing golden legends and stories about their time. But it's such a stark reminder of what happened to the apostles in Rome. I mean, now we go to Rome and everywhere is Catholic and the Pope lives there, and you go and eat and drink and it's a nice experience. But in the beginning of the church, Rome was a bloodbath for Christians. That's where all these martyrs are made. So I thought it was important to make that stop to see where, and they still have the chains that Peter and Paul were chained to the wall with, which is something that I think will be a really eye-opening experience for everyone.
Is there a chapel there, or is it just a tourist
There's a
spot?
chapel there.
What is
Yeah,
it? How did
there's
the-
a chapel
the
there.
church
There's a
respond?
church above, but then
Okay.
We definitely have
and the
prayer there.
prison would be below ground, right? I mean, it's a dungeon.
Yeah.
So then after that, we're going to have dinner, and then we'll kind of have a little bit of, free time or personal time to just go and take a look at Rome and get settled in there. So that was day 5. So now day 6, we're really going to be deeply settled into Rome, and we're going to have, in the morning, we're going to get to go see some of the very ancient cultural sites. So we're going to see the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. So the Colosseum, I mean, I don't think you can go to Rome without wanting to see that. And then the Forum, which was kind of the town square of ancient Rome. Then we're going to go to the Trevi Fountain. The Trevi Fountain is probably the most famous, water fountain in the world. It is this beautiful square with all sorts of gelato stands, and everyone throws the coins in. And I don't think even pictures can describe how elaborate and amazing these things are. Have either of you guys ever been to the Trevi Fountain?
Yes, it just went through a major renovation. It took 5 years for them because so they don't damage any of that. They use a very, very small tool to clean it, so it takes forever. But it's beautiful now. It looks just like the day when it was carved. So you get to see that. It was so dark before; it was kind of hard to.
Yeah, I remember that.
But now it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, wonderful square too. Good gelato, some acts going on in the square. Some magicians and different things.
Right off of that square, we're going to stop at this. We're going to stop at a church, and it's the Church of Saint Vincent and Anastasius at Trevi. And this place has a really cool feature. It's a beautiful Baroque style church, and the church itself is magnificent. But inside, they have this big wall of relics, and they have the hearts of 22 popes embalmed and above the altar. So we're going to get to see these just amazing relics. And then, like I said earlier, how Rome is the heartbeat of the church. You're going to see the hearts of the Pope that have guided the church throughout there. So that's going to be a really, I think, really cool and interesting and experience that probably most people will never even consider.
Yeah.
The day's not done. So we're going to go over to the Pantheon. And the Pantheon is the oldest and most complete structure from ancient Rome still in existence. And, now it's the church where, like on Pentecost, they drop the roses through the ceiling and it's dedicated to the Holy Spirit. But this is a incredibly ancient building that is still in use. And it's so beautiful with the oculus where you can look up to the sky. That will be something really, really cool to see. We're going to see, you'll experience this one, but then we're also going to go to a church. So this day's kind of busy. We're going to go see the relics of St. Catherine of Siena. And St. Catherine of Siena is such a powerful figure in the history of the church, such a powerful woman. St. Catherine of Siena was the saint who, when the popes left Rome and went and lived in France and Avignon, St. Catherine of Siena, this woman, was able to tell the Pope, you need to get back to Rome and you need to be the Bishop of Rome. And that's a really powerful testament to, her sainthood, and to be able to venerate her relics is going to be a really great experience. From there, we're going to walk over and we're going to see the Bernini fountains. And Bernini is the architect who designed St. Peter's, but they're a very famous fountain set as well. So that's a second fountain. And then we're going to celebrate Mass that day at the Church of St. Augustine, right? Of St. Augustine. And, Father Tetlow, you're a priest of the Diocese of St. Augustine.
Cool.
And there is the relics of Saint Monica. And Saint Monica is one of the patron saints of mothers of abused women. And Ryan, maybe your mom will appreciate this, of mothers who have problematic children. So this will be a great opportunity to... She wouldn't know.
She wouldn't know.
No, I'm talking about Dane. I'm not talking about you.
No, she wouldn't.
This will be a great opportunity to go to venerate the relics of Saint Monica and pray for your children, because that's what Saint Monica is famous for. She prayed for her wayward son, Augustine, who was a pagan and a playboy and a partier, and who eventually became one of the great saints of the church. And I think that's a particular and special tie to the Diocese of St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long day.
But it's all within walking distance. That's one of the things about Rome. It's so densely populated with all these amazing sites that, we're not having to walk miles and miles. I mean, you look one way, you got a 15th century building. You turn your head the other way, you got a Roman building. And then you got, it's a marvel how many different important and amazing places there are to see just by turning yourself 360.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So then the rest of the day, and you think that's busy, we'll probably be done by 3:00 that day. So then that evening, you're kind of all free range chickens. Everyone's able to just go and explore whatever it is in Rome that you might want to see. You might want to go look at, more closely the Colosseum. You might want to go to, I don't know, the burial site of Julius Caesar. You might want to go and have a world-class meal. You might want to go to, shopping and get some of those famous Italian, designer clothes. One of the things, Ryan, and we've been talking about is building in more personal time for people on these pilgrimages so that they can go and have a little downtime, you know?
Explore, yeah. Rest too. A lot of people use that time for rest. I think, the other thing is just maybe going back to something that you wanted to go to. There's a lot of things that we did. We celebrated a birthday one night in Barcelona. So yeah, really good. And I know my wife would appreciate the rest during
I've been
that
known
time.
to sneak in a nap or two on a pilgrimage, and let me tell you, it's an old traveler's pro tip. A good nap is probably as good as seeing some of the sights. But we want to make sure that you have time for that, right?
Yep.
And that's something that we've learned on our trips together. So then now we're on to day 7, and this is going to be a really, I think, a really super important date. And to go through the things that we're going to do here, it doesn't even sound real to me, guys. It doesn't even sound like it's something that I'm going to get to experience. It's so special. So we're going to wake up nice and early. So hopefully you didn't take your free time too free. And we're going to go to St. Peter's Square, where we are going to have a papal audience and be blessed by the Pope. That's such a cool experience and something that I've never experienced. And I think it was probably a dream of Christians for 2,000 years to be able to go and have an audience of Pope and get a special blessing, and particularly in the Jubilee year for pilgrims. I think that's going to be something that I can't even comprehend. I mean, I know, Father Tetlow, you've probably been blessed by the Pope, but Ryan, you ever experienced that?
No, not at all. I've seen a Pope one time in a Pope mobile and was at Mass with him in Washington, D.C., which absolutely blew my mind. I think I cried just with him driving across. Just the chair of St. Peter is just so powerful. But no, never had an audience with him, especially in Rome. Yeah, it'd be exciting.
I've got a great story about John Paul. I went over there. I was on a trip to the seminary, and I got a call the afternoon before the afternoon before the Mass I was going to go to was taking place, and it was basically, the Holy Father would like to invite you to his apartment for a private Mass in the morning, and there was only 5 of us. And we got to go into his apartment, got to see him read all of his newspapers, because he would read these newspapers for an hour before he celebrated Mass to see what was going on in the world and pray for all of that, pray for the world during his Mass. And it felt like it was a very, very powerful thing. So I got to talk to him, and he gave me a rosary and gave me a few words of kind of a pep talk about we're doing vocation work. So that's one of the highlights of my life. Getting to see him like that.
I was probably some of the fruit of that prayer with your vocation.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Thanks, John Paul II.
Father Tetlow, have you ever been to a papal audience in St. Peter's Square? What's that like?
Yeah. It's a wonderful experience. It depends. Like this last time we went, there were not that many people, so we got to go inside. There's a place where he appears for like 2,000 people.
Audience hall,
right?
Yeah.
Some of the papal audiences can be over 100,000 people. It depends on the time of the year. And then you just basically gather in front of the apartments surrounding the Vatican Church, and he comes to the window and gives a blessing, and then blesses all of the people's rosaries and medals and whatever. So it just depends on what's going on. We could even be there I've been there twice now when I didn't even know that they were canonizing 2 saints. I was there for the canonization of Padre Pio. And I was also there for who was the other one?
Is the patron saint of forgetful people?
Yeah, well, I should be in that category. Sister Faustina.
Yeah, that's
Saint
right.
Faustina. I was there. They were canonized together. So I've just been blessed to be a part of all those things, and it's all magical. It's all beautiful. I say magical not in the sense of it's magic, but it's something you would never experience anywhere else.
And it's so grace filled,
Yeah.
you know.
And it will be it should be very, very packed, you know. But then you get to meet all these people you might be standing next to for a while. I've been there when it rained, and we had mass for close to 1 million people outside. But that in itself was very powerful. And we had a little minor miracle there with the Eucharist. We only had, we couldn't get anywhere. They were running out of Eucharist. And I went and found some because they weren't coming over to where we were. And I got 5 hosts. And I was able to take care of our group and another group with those 5 hosts. You know, we call it our miracle of the bread.
The loaves and the fishes.
Yeah, but all it takes is a little tiny speck of the Eucharist, and you've received the Eucharist.
Yeah.
So I was able to. Everybody received from those 5 hosts, over 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
was
then
powerful.
after,
you're gonna have powerful experiences.
oh yeah,
That's
we
just
can't predict
everywhere
what's
you
going to
go.
happen. We can only predict where we're going to be.
Yeah.
So then after we have that papal audience, we're going to go over to the second then of the holy doors, and we're going to go to St. Mary Major, which is one of the 4 primary churches of Rome. And that's where they have the famous icon of Our Lady of Help, the Salus Populi Romani. So like whenever you see like Pope Francis, he goes on one of these international trips, whenever he comes back, he always brings flowers to her. And this is an ancient icon in the Byzantine style. During the Middle Ages, whenever there was a plague in Rome, they would process this image around. And there's so many stories about how devotion to Our Lady saved the city of Rome. That's why it's probably the most beloved icon of Our Lady in all of Italy. And then again, we'll go through that second holy door. So if overnight you've spoiled your plenary indulgence, there is a chance to then get that second one and you really refortify that and maybe fix any beta testing issues that you ran into.
You kind of messed up on the first one. Yeah.
Then from there, we're then going to go to our third of the major basilicas. So we'll have had audience of the Pope, then to St. Mary Major's to see that icon. And then we're going to go to St. John Lateran, which is the Cathedral Church of Rome. So, you know, in any city, the cathedral is where the bishop is located. St. John Lateran is actually the Pope's primary church, not St. Peter's. And what's really cool in there, we are going to see relics of Peter and Paul. I can't tell you how much that means to me to be able to see the physical remains of the first Pope and St. Paul. It boggles the mind to be able to consider that that's an experience I'm going to get to have.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, of course. It's all. Yeah. If you've never been, my friends, or even if you have been, it's different on a holy year too.
So then at that church, that'll be our second holy door of the day and our third of the trip. So if by some reason from on the way from St. Mary to St. John Lateran, you spoiled your indulgence again, well, that will be the third opportunity as well. So we're going to make sure that you leave out of this trip without spending any time in purgatory. I think that's what we're trying to achieve here. Then we're going, now this is how we're going to cap the day. And like I said, this day is just mind-blowing. We are going to go to visit the stairs, the holy stairs in the Church of Jerusalem in Rome. And these are the stairs that Jesus himself walked up, the 33 stairs that he walked up to have his trial with Pontius Pilate. And these stairs are all cased in marble, and they're worn out from pilgrimages for 1,000 years, crawling up them on his knees. But then to be able to walk in the actual steps of Christ on his way to his trial and passion is, again, like I can't even describe how many things in this day are life-changing, and they're all happening in one day. That's just, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
We'll also then be able to see the relics in the Basilica of the Holy Cross, the relics of the Passion. So a piece of the true cross, one of the nails. We're going to see things like the titulus. So the INRI that you see on every crucifix, that original one, the Titulus Crucis, is there in this church. We're going to get to see and venerate these amazing icons of the Passion of the Arma Christi, and I literally cannot wait. It's a lifelong dream to be able to see stuff like this.
Crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
Okay, so now we're on to day 8 after that amazing day. And we're going to be then going to our 4th and final of the major churches in Rome, and that's St. Peter's Basilica. We're going to the Vatican, and we're going to walk through our 4th and final holy door. We'll have Mass there, and then after that, we're giving you a free day. So we went through the 4 major basilicas, so on day 8, whatever it is, it's a free day. You can go to the Vatican museums, you can go to some of the ancient sites, you can go eat, you can go nap, you can do whatever you want. And our tour guides will help you plan something that, whatever it is you want to do, they'll give you different options and ability to explore Rome. So maybe if you're going with your spouse or your family, that could be a more private day where you can do whatever. But, we're going to be in St. Peter's, the site of the tomb of St. Peter, where in Matthew 16:18, our Lord said to St. Peter, "Peter, you are a rock, and upon this rock I will build my church." And that place is right there. His tomb is directly below the main altar of the Vatican, and that is the rock. And that is where his church is built on. And to be able to go, if you've never been to the Vatican and experience this, I think it's the culmination of the trip. It's something that is just, you can't put it into words until you actually experience going to somewhere that's so filled with spiritual power, historical power, and then just the absolute beauty of the architecture of the church, and then the sight of all the pilgrims going there for the same reason, making sure that they can experience the same, I don't want to say spiritual ecstasy, but something close to it, to be able to be in St. Peter's for their first time in their life. So again, St. Peter's, Mass, and then whatever it is you want to do in Rome, our guides will help you find something to do. I mean, Ryan, what would you consider doing with a free time in Rome? Because I know you've been there.
Well, I'm going to be with my wife, hopefully. And so I think a lot of our free time is going to be getting her some rest, or somebody helping us get her to her room for rest. Most of my free time, man, I just soak in the culture and the food, and we're going to be tired, and I'm just going to want to just relax, have a glass of wine, a good conversation. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, Ryan, times that we've had some of the most fun on these trips is when we're in between visits, and we're able to just go, like you said, soak up the culture and get a group of people together, go out to eat, get some desserts, which I'm sure, the desserts in Rome are crazy. Do shopping, I'm sure you're going to want to bring back some souvenirs for family members. So that would be a great opportunity to be able to do that. But if you can't find something to do in Rome, you can't find something to do anywhere. And especially with our guides being able to help you, you'll definitely be able to get the most out of that day. So that is it. Those are the main days of the core part of the pilgrimage. After that, we always have a farewell dinner on the end of the pilgrimages where everyone gets together. We usually go to probably the most fanciest restaurant that we will have went to on the pilgrimage and have a group dinner where we'll get to say prayers, take pictures with everyone, do all of our cheers and our toasts, and then experience just a really world-class meal. Those farewell dinners are always just absolutely enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. A lot of tears are shed. A lot of stories are told. A lot of numbers are shared. It's just the friendships that we've made just coming all to a head over a really nice dinner. It's a beautiful experience.
That's right. And Select International, the group that we work with exclusively, does such a great job. They find these restaurants that, number one, can accommodate groups of our size, but then also have the kind of quality and service that really, you would want to expect from a trip like this, a trip of the lifetime. whether, it's the meals, whether it's arranging your flights for you, making sure that the hotel accommodations are world class. I mean, this is a very well run trip. I mean, we have great buses and tour guides. Some of these tour guides, honestly, you can give them a microphone and they could run our podcast because they know more about the faith than we do. I mean, it's amazing. Some of these people, and they're always so kind and gracious and so knowledgeable. It's a really wonderful benefit to the trip. So again, if you want to go on this trip, this is the core part of the trip. That was the 9 days. Go to catholictalkshow.com/Rome, and you can see all the different packages, whether you want to be a solo traveler, which we have a lot of, or if you want to come as a group, there's group packages or just couples. There's a lot of affordable options. They can find you airfare from anywhere, whether you're coming from anywhere in the United States or Canada or even Europe. We have a lot of people who will join us on these trips from there because they want to experience the fraternity and the group experience. Yeah. You can find a way to sign up now. Again, there's very few seats available. Everyone wants to go to Italy for the Jubilee year. So being able to even find accommodations was really hard. We planned this trip almost 2 years in advance.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Able to have that.
Yeah.
And we are really capped, right? So if you want to go on this trip, I can't encourage you enough. All you have to do is make the deposit now to lock in your spot. You can call Select International. The number and all the information's on the sign-up page if you go to catholictalkshow.com/Rome. And they'll help you. They'll help you plan what you want to do, where you want to fly from, what kind of accommodations you want, what you need as far as passports and all that stuff. Everything's done for you. It makes it so easy that way you can focus on praying, getting to know people, and enjoying the experience.
Amen, man. Like you said, we've been planning this for a really long time, and man, just talking about this right now has really got me excited. So it's the same thing that happened to the Holy Land. We just didn't end up going.
That's right. We've had 2 pilgrimages canceled, one for a war and one for a pandemic. Barring the second coming, I don't think there's anything else that can compete with those.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing a lot of that stuff, Ryan, too.
Yeah. Now, that is the core pilgrimage. But like I said at the beginning, there's an optional pre-pilgrimage that you're able to go on. And Ryan, myself, and Father Tetlow will be there as well. So not everybody from the trip will go on this, but people who maybe have more flexibility with their travel schedule or really want to see these things that have that option. So it's an additional 4 days beforehand. So we will fly in then to Milan. So people going on this this pre-pilgrimage will fly into Milan, and which Milan is just one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So we'll spend the first 2 days of this pre-pilgrimage there. We will see a panoramic tour of Milan. We're going to see a castle. We're going to see the opera house. We're going to see the Basilica of St. Ambrose. And St. Ambrose was the bishop who converted St. Augustine. And this church, this basilica, is just, the facade on this is so beautiful. You can't, Ryan, we go on these trips and we get in front of these churches and we look up and it's just like, you can't even comprehend what you're seeing. They're so beautiful, so elaborate and so delicate. It's such an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So then from there, from Milan, we're going to go by bus over to Turin. And this is probably the main reason that we're doing this, because we know not everybody can go for the full trip, but for the people who want to, we are going to go first. So we're going to go, it's a 90-minute drive to Turin from Milan, which we're going to, driving through these countrysides is always just a beautiful, peaceful experience. On the bus, Ryan, Father Tetlow, and myself, we lead rosaries, we do Q&A sessions. The bus rides are a lot of fun. Ryan, you always turn on the DJ and
we did karaoke on our
karaoke.
Bus. Yeah.
Ryan's bus is probably more fun than mine. Mine's probably more educational. So you can figure out which one you want to be on.
Takes all types.
It does. So first we're going to go to the Basilica in Turin, Our Lady Help of Christians. And that's where they have the tomb of St. John Bosco. And St. John Bosco, one of the most amazing saints, and he's an incorruptible as well. And we're also going to see the tomb of St. Dominic Savio, who is the patron saint of the Eucharist and of altar boys, which is a really, really cool, really great saint that we should learn about. From there, we will go to where the Shroud of Turin is. And to be in the presence of the burial cloth of our Lord that shows the image of his suffering and his passion and the moment for his resurrection is one of those things that I can't put into words. I can't comprehend being there. Now, the Shroud of Turin is rarely on display. It might not be folded out, but we will be at the bare minimum next to the reliquary that holds the Shroud of Turin, the silver reliquary. If the Shroud of Turin is not exposed, we'll see an exact replica above it, but then still be within, arm's length of the reliquary that holds the actual burial cloth of Christ. I can't put into words what that would mean to me, Ryan. And I know for what you and Jen are going through, to be able to be in the presence of that icon of the suffering of Jesus is just amazing.
Yeah, there was some recent research that came out that they found radiation in some of the blood. It's just like, when we talked about the last trip we didn't take to Israel and then the radiation, measurements that were done near that site in Jerusalem, and then the radiation in his blood, it's just like incomprehensible, the amazing nature of this, and to just contemplate just the science of all of it too,
Yeah, and they just did that new study with the X-ray where they're like, no, the carbon dating done in the 80s was definitively overturned. In the 80s, they said, no, this is a medieval forgery because of the carbon dating. This new technology completely debunked and refuted that finding and showed that the fibers of this shroud 100% go back 2,000 years, which lends credence and I think removes the doubt cast on those earlier studies. So then while we're in Turin, we're also going to go and see the tomb of another incorruptible, Pier Giorgio Frassati, just a man's man of a saint, and I think somebody creating a lot of movement and dynamism within the church. I mean, this is the saint who would say to the heights and climb a mountain and then celebrate mass by the time when you come back down. This is going to be someone, so if you have a dedication to prayer, Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, and again, just like Blessed Carlo Acutis, he is going to be canonized next year too. So if things line up in a perfect world, we'll be there for the canonization of two saints. But at the bare minimum, we're going to be seeing the tombs of the bodies of two saints in the year that they are canonized, and two very powerful saints, and saints that I think are necessary for our time. Saints that kind of serve as examples of antidotes of the things that ail us now, both in the piety and the purity of Blessed Carlo Acutis and how he used technology to spread devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. But then also in Blessed Pier Giorgio, how he showed that you could be entirely masculine and be entirely vigorous and virile, but still be completely dedicated to the church and to the faith and worship our Lord without sacrificing any of your masculinity. So I think that's a really important saint that we'll be able to venerate. So again, we're going to be spending the night there in Turin, which Turin is just, this is now pretty far north in Italy. It's just going to be such a beautiful natural experience to be able to see the rolling hills and all the trees and these beautiful churches. But to be able to see the Shroud of Turin there is just crazy. Now, one of the other things that we will have seen there, and this will be, is the Last Supper. We will see maybe the most famous painting ever done is DaVinci's Last Supper. So we're going to go to that church and we're going to be right there underneath the painting you've seen a million times and is considered one of the greatest paintings ever done. And we can go there and contemplate both, the apostles and the institution of the Eucharist, but then also just the masterful artwork of Da Vinci and this cultural treasure that, everyone has seen, but to see in person, I think is just again, Ryan, I can't even handle all the things on this trip that I can't wait to see. I can't even keep
either.
them all straight in my head, you know?
Yeah, and I've been to Rome, just Rome, and just looking at the history and the saints and the churches, and just going through half of the country, it seems like in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
It's going to be powerful.
So that was day 3 of the pre-pilgrimage, and then on day 4, we're going to be working our way back to where we can then go and meet up with the main group. So this is, again, before the main pilgrimage. Then we'll be on our way back. We're going to be stopping. So this will be day 4, leaving Turin. We're going to go to Cologne, which is kind of like a mountainous region with beautiful vistas and views. And we're going to go to there's going to be some mass. We're going to go to the Europa Sanctuary. We're going to go and see, it's called the Shrine Between the Earth and the Sky. And it goes back to the 4th century. It was founded by St. Eusebius. And we're going to celebrate Mass there. And the way that it's built, the way that it nestles into the nature, the peace and the kind of natural splendor for those who go on this pre-pilgrimage will be a nice little breath and a little place of meditation for us to prepare then to go on the full pilgrimage. Then we're going to go back to Turin from there, and we're going to go to a place called Italy, which is basically all the food that you could think of in Italy is there. It's a huge marketplace, cafeteria, food emporium, I think is how they describe it, where all the things that you might ever wanted to try and experience authentic Italian food, we will be able to eat there. So that's the pre-pilgrimage. So then from there, then we go meet up with the rest of the people who are coming in for the main part. So again, if you want to reserve your spot for this trip, and it'll be myself and Ryan DellaCrosse and Father Tetlow and potentially another priest, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Rome, and you can reserve your seat. Like I said, everyone's trying to get to Rome for the Jubilee year. It happens once every 25 years. It's going to be right after Easter during the octave. It's going to be, while we're still kind of on that spiritual high from the joy of the resurrection and having gotten through Lent. And this is just such a great way to celebrate, experience both Easter and the Jubilee, and experience joy, culture, faith, friendship, great food, great accommodations, and hopefully something that you could say is the trip of a lifetime. Lots of fun, too. Don't forget that. Great. Well, if you ever seen any of our videos from our other pilgrimages that we share while we're on it, you can see look, we pray hard and we play hard. It's so much fun. We bring family. You get to meet everyone. It's one of the great joys of my life is to be able to go on these trips with you, Ryan, and with Father. It's such a cool experience to be able to see these things that are you've heard stories, they're fundamental to our faith, but then to experience them in the firsthand and then pray together, celebrate Mass. It's the good parts of life. So we really hope that you can join us. Yeah, and a lot of listeners that we've met, just me being nearby at John Paul II parish and meeting folks at conferences. I mean, you guys all know that's like one of the things I love, is just to talk to the people that I feel like know me, and that's great. That means that they want to hang out. And so it's fun to hang out with them, so it's just a really fun time for us too, as well. Yeah. I mean, getting to meet the people in person who help support the show or are fans of the show. Yeah. And be a pilgrim with them, go on this trip together and have a glass of wine or a meal together and celebrate Mass together. It's a really special experience to be able to have that kind of fraternity and closeness with people that sometimes we are, separated by a camera. To be able to do that incarnationally is something I think that's really special. So again, very few spots left. Go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Rome, and you can see all the different packages, different options. You can decide whether you want to go on the full pilgrimage or if you want to go on just the core part and not do the pre-tour to Turin. If you have any questions, Select International's customer service is awesome. They'll tell you everything you need to know. They'll help you make any sort of deposits, get all your paperwork in line, figure your flights to get to there, and plan all that out for you. It's a done-for-you white glove experience. But again, We really hope you're able to go with us. It's a Jubilee year. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We hope to see you there. So for Ryan, and Father Tetlow, who snuck off the camera because he had to go, which is very Tetlow. Again, we just really want to thank you for spending this time with us to see this trip. Now, if you're not able to go, we'll definitely be praying for all of you while we're on these trips. We always pray for everyone who listens and supports the show. We're on these trips. But if you can go in person, it's going to be a real joy to meet you. So again, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Rome. We hope to see you there.